Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Droid Live Show, episode 61 tonight. I'm your host, Kellen. With me, Eric, Kyle, and Ron. Everybody say hi real quick.
Hello, I'm Eric.
Hey, this
Hi,
is Ron.
Kyle. Oh, of course. We talk over each other again. Hi, Kyle.
Absent is
Here.
Everything's all screwed up because Tim's not here, so we're like,
Different order.
which order do we go? All right, anyways, thanks for joining us on this, well, it's beautiful here in Portland, beautiful Wednesday evening. We have actually quite a bit of stuff going on over the last week since the last show. So we'll actually start off talking about, well, I should say we'll get it out of the way, talking about Amazon's rumored phone that's probably coming June 18th. We'll also talk some iOS stuff because iOS 8 came out, and Apple actually introduced quite a bit of big things there. There's a Tizen smartphone. The end is near, apparently, according to lots of people or something. Android 4.4.3 is all over the place for a number of devices. We've seen a Moto 360 prototype now. HTC still can't make money. The Nexus Q returned. All sorts of stuff. So, yeah, we'll just talk about it. I don't want to completely downplay what Amazon's doing here, but Amazon announced an event today for June 18th, and they're letting anyone sign up to show up if they are. I said it'll have anyone to sign up to potentially get an invite. You could be a journalist or just a tech fan or whatever it is. And they released a teaser video that shows a bunch of people, essentially looking at the product. Of course, it's out of sight, and they're tilting, back and forth as they're looking at it, and it sort of leads us to believe that this is this 3D phone that's been rumored a number of times. It's supposed to have 8 cameras or something on the front and display imagery in some sort of 3D formats, and it should be interesting. So we're pretty sure that's coming June 18th. Tim wrote the story up earlier, and we were watching the comments, and I think it went like 10 minutes without a single peep from anyone. Like, we can post up something ridiculous like, what else did we post up today? I don't know, a game or something, and like instantly there's a comment. And Amazon's announcing a new phone, their first phone ever, I should say, and no one cares. So I want to know, do any of you care that Amazon is potentially announcing a phone? Ron, do you want to kick things off?
Sure. No, but that's not surprising coming from me because I hate everything, right?
Okay, yes, you do, but still.
No, but I think Amazon is an interesting company for reasons outside of the Kindle Fire, right? Like that is one of the things that they do. I don't think that their Android fork and their App Store is one of the reasons that makes Amazon interesting. So I don't think it's surprising when people kind of just move on when they say they're going to come out with new hardware, because they are, or at least they were. I haven't looked at stats in the last few months, but they were the biggest Android tablet manufacturer for a little while. And so I guess that's interesting because it's cheap, but it's not it never has been a good experience, and you're obviously siphoned off of the Play Store. So, I mean, I guess we'll see what they come out with, but I don't expect it to be earth-shattering. I expect something like Facebook Home.
You mean 3D is not earth-shattering?
No, just earth-bending.
15 cameras is not changing the game.
No, I mean, obviously they're beating HTC with their own games. I mean, there's that.
With the gimmicks?
No, with just more camera sensors.
Oh yeah, just keep throwing out more camera sensors, and that's how we innovate these days. Yeah.
I mean,
the pixels.
Yeah.
Right.
I hope they call it something like 3D pixel or something.
Yeah, boom picture or something.
Yeah, boom picture. Boom.
Oh, boom picture would be a great shot at HTC.
Anybody else thoughts on this, Amazon? Kyle?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with Ron. I mean, there are two things we know for certain about this phone. It'll have gimmicky 3D tilt features. Amazon will have an interface built around their IR sensors, and I'm not very optimistic that'll be an enjoyable experience. We'll see. But secondly, it's just going to be a portal for Amazon products, Amazon digital products and physical. And I like Ron, don't want to be locked into their ecosystem because I don't know. They have their own app store. It's grown over the past a couple of years, but it's not as good as the Play Store. And I don't know. I use Google Play Movies quite frequently, and the other Google features like All Access, and I'd be very disappointed if I couldn't install those on my phone. Of course, you'll probably be able to sideload those applications, but it won't be as simple or as easy as on an AOSP device.
Eric, did you have any Amazon thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of said everything that I've been thinking so far. Is just 3D's kind of been played out. Samsung did the whole gesture-based, thing. They've been doing it since the S4, where you could tilt and it'll scroll down for you, or stuff like that. And I don't think it's ever really taken off. No one's ever picked up an S4 and said, at least to me, pointed out the little gimmicky navigation through 3D or facial.
Oh yeah, that stuff's terrible. All the tilt scrolling and things like that.
I haven't heard one person ever say that they enjoy using that.
I always turn all that stuff off. Yeah.
Well,
Much
to be
less
fair, they're probably in easy mode, right?
So I don't know. It's just I'll be curious to see what they have, but
what if it's $200 no contract, and they give you free 500 megabytes of LTE every month?
I think they're going to have to do something like that to make it dent, because you can't just waltz into the marketplace anymore and just make an immediate impact. I think
that's what they said about the iPhone, Eric. This could be the next iPhone.
Yeah, I was going to go on to say that time has passed, and especially for Android, that time kind of existed where everybody was just going to try and make an Android phone because it was free, and oh man, look, the market share is exploding. But I think that opportunity time has passed, so they'll have to do something pretty interesting, like a low price point, or throwing in some ridiculous, add-ons when you sign up for it to get people to switch.
Like their own delivery drone.
Yeah, you can control your own Amazon drone with the 3D imaging on the phone.
Remember when Amazon used to do free app of the day on the App Store, and then
Are they not doing that anymore?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Nobody even uses the App Store.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you want to know why? Because it's in their terms to allow that developers just have to let that happen. So that's they have ridiculous, insane terms.
Yeah, they have really bad terms if you're a developer, for sure.
I don't
Is
know.
anyone incredibly annoyed by the coins? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Trying to take over. They have their own money now.
Yes. They
Oh my
do.
god.
I want to
And
live
they
on
want you to
Amazon's island.
download. Well, they want you to download free apps, and then they'll give you coins. That's how hard it is for them to get anyone to adopt that ridiculous service. Yeah. So I think the specs rumored for this phone aren't gonna blow anyone away. I think it's a 720p display or something, and some other stuff. So I'd imagine it's gonna be cheap. And then the whole thing is, I guess the whole 3D thing I just don't understand. I don't know why they think anyone wants to tilt their phone around to see 3D anything. That just sounds like a pain to me. Like you said, Eric, those tilt gestures on the Galaxy S phones are terrible to use. And the fact that you had to tilt your phone. So, we'll see. June 18th. Also on that day, this is kind of unrelated, but T-Mobile's announcing a bunch of stuff too. So Amazon's now competing with T-Mobile's 5.0 uncarrier thing. So that should be interesting. All right, so let's move on then. iOS 8 and Yosemite and a bunch of other stuff. So Apple had WWDC this week, or it's probably still going on. But anyway, they had their keynote on, was that Monday? Yeah, that was Monday. And they announced all sorts of stuff for iOS 8. I think they called it their biggest release since the App Store or iTunes, something like that. Biggest release since something. Anyways, biggest release since iOS 7 and all that stuff. So we talked about a lot of it. We obviously do our usual sort of poke fun at some of the things they announced. But they also announced some things that I personally thought were pretty cool. Tim Cook also took kind of a dirty little cheap shot at Android users. So let's see. iOS 8 got, well, they now are letting, basically they're, at least the biggest things I saw, which makes iOS enormously more useful, I think, is that they opened up all this stuff to third-party developers. So widgets now can be built by third-party developers, third-party keyboards, and then app developers can add in like sharing between apps and things like that. And all that stuff was absent before, which I thought really limited the OS just in general. So they got stuff like that. Apple invented predictive text, I think, or something like that with a keyboard. But they also did some things I thought were interesting, like their interactive notifications. I thought took sort of Android's interactive notifications a little bit further. Like you can respond to a text in the notification, it brings up the keyboard, things like that. They also are doing like an automatic hotspot thing with iPhones and MacBooks and stuff like that, and the automatic phone calls. And I know a lot of people were talking about how we have Google Voice on Android, except Apple's doing it where you don't need to sign up for Google Voice and port your number and do all this extra stuff. It just kind of works.
Or make sure that it's actually working when somebody tries to call you. Because
yeah.
it still doesn't work well. Like I still see problems with that.
Yeah, and when you look at sort of the Android or Google side of it, you have to have Hangouts and Google Voice, so you have to have both of those, and then you have to figure out which way they work with your computer or your phone. I mean, it's kind of a mess. They also did this thing with multitasking, where if you hit the home button twice, it added like this sort of section up top with favorite users or favorite contacts or recently used contacts, so you can quickly message them, call them, video message with them and all that stuff. Then they updated their messaging app with group messaging stuff. That's really cool. They did a family share thing where up to, I think, 6 devices can all download the same content that's been purchased one time or something like that, as long as they've used the same credit card, and app bundles in the iTunes App Store. So you could, a developer could sell all of their games for like one low price, something like that. So anyways, a whole bunch of stuff. Just kind of your guys' reaction maybe to all of this stuff. In general, if you saw things you liked, you want to take a shot at. Oh, by the way, that shot that Tim Cook said was that a bunch of people bought Android phones by mistake, and then they sought a better experience and a better life, and they decided to switch over to iPhones. So anyways, Eric, do you want to start? Did you get to watch any of the iOS stuff or check it out?
No, I didn't actually, because I remembered the WWDC or DC was on, and so I opened up my computer. I'm sitting here at my desk, and I follow the link to the live blog, and they're like, you have to be on Safari for this stream to work. And I was like, well, crap, my MacBook is kind of under the weather right now, so I didn't get to watch any of it. I just got to keep up with it through Droid Life and The Verge. But I did eventually get caught up. The one thing that I really, I just don't understand what's so hard about a messaging system that Google just doesn't understand.
Right.
That Apple seems to get very well. To this day, group messaging. I don't know what's so hard about that. So I'm planning a trip to San Francisco here in a couple weeks, and I've got a couple people coming with me, and I started a group text with them, and I texted both of them in the same text through Google Hangouts, and one of them has an iPhone, and one of them has an LG Lucid or whatever, some really bad phone. And so it goes out to both of them, and then the person with the iPhone, it comes back through the same group message that I just created, but the person with the Android phone, it comes back in through their specific text message conversation that we've already had going past. So I would just get these responses to text that I would send to the group message through his
an individual conversation you were having with him.
I don't understand why Google can't get that, and I'm admittedly jealous that messaging is just that easy on iOS. I think Hangouts is a big step forward, but they can still do a lot to fix that.
Well, to be fair, that's not if you were sending that text from iOS and it would have been the same thing. It's because he has a crappy dumb phone. That's why.
That's true.
No,
but
didn't you say you said it was an Android phone?
There was 3 people in there. It was me, a person with the iPhone, and the LG Lucid. And the iPhone came back through the group messaging chat. That one worked as it was supposed to. But the LG Lucid decided to send it back and forth through our individual conversation for some reason.
Well, I haven't texted on an Android phone in forever. So when you text on an Android phone to another, like in a group message to another Android user. Like it does a group message, doesn't it, on their side too, or no?
I'm not sure. That's what I don't.
And I wonder if it depends on if they're using.
Doesn't in Google Voice, because I can't group text anyone.
Well, yeah, you're using Google Voice. I mean, that's your first problem.
Right.
It's just the whole thing. So and it seeing their upgrades in the messaging at this past week, just kind of reopened that. And to talk about the low blow that what's his name, Tim Cook, took at Android users. I did see a lot of people originally buy Android. This was a couple years ago, and then switch to iPhone. But about 60% of the people that I've seen that did that have since gone back to Android, and they're now on HTC M8 or Galaxy S5 or that kind of stuff. So it goes both ways. Let me tell you. So
they decided they wanted to go back to a terrible life, switch back to.
Apparently, I guess we're all just cavemen living in our.
I mean, my life sucks. Let me tell you. I have like 8 Android phones on my desk.
Ooh,
I'm about to.
I mean, your life really sucks. Your life sucks 8 times more than Ron's does.
Yeah, it's exponential.
I don't know. Ron has this balancing act going because he's got a Moto X and some other Android. I mean.
Yeah, but I just got this Samsung whatever Windows phone. Tim finally shipped.
Yeah. So you're. I mean,
I've got my Pre 2 sitting right here with his keyboard. I mean, I'm just. I could die at any minute, guys.
But you have a savior, and it's that blue iPhone right next to you.
Blue that you can't tell is blue.
Yes, the gray iPhone. Yeah. Kyle, did you have any? I'm saving you for last, by the way, Ron. Kyle, did you have any iOS thoughts in general?
Yeah, I watched the stream. I thought there were a couple of non-starters. HomeKit is probably going to go nowhere.
I guess I didn't. I missed a bunch of stuff. What was HomeKit? I missed all that whole section, I think.
So basically, it's an open standard. Well, actually, I don't even think it's open. It's just a standard that Apple created for device. I don't know. Yeah, device manufacturers to adopt to kind of facilitate easier like home automation.
Okay.
So, for example, I think one of the partners was Honeywell or something. So presumably Honeywell is going to, make a thermostat compatible with this new standard that will work with iOS devices.
Okay.
But I just don't see it going any further than Android at home because Apple didn't really announce any specifics. They just said they created this and it works with Siri and you can control devices with it. But they didn't show any products. Perhaps they're saving those for the the iPhone 6 unveiling. I don't really know. But I don't know. It just seemed like half-assed, really. And another thing I don't think will go anywhere is no. Let me find it. Sorry, I'm scrolling through this. Oh yeah, HealthKit. So everyone thought health would be a huge deal at WWDC at the keynote. It really wasn't, though. Again, Apple was very light on details. They just showed a slide of partners, really, and talked very briefly about how HealthKit could, aggregate all this health information, and maybe someday, I think they're launching a partnership with the Mayo Clinic, and they gave this example, the scenario where, if someone is wearing a device that measures with their blood pressure and the blood pressure reading is under the normal limits for that person, then HealthKit could help that person get in touch with a doctor at the Mayo Clinic, something like that. But who knows how well that's going to work, with what devices it's going to work. It basically looked like a passbook for health information.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I know, passbook isn't the most useful thing in the world, even though Apple really promoted the heck out of it when they first unveiled it. So I'm not very optimistic about that either. All of the messaging stuff that Eric just talked about, I am also envious of. I love how seamless it is, and the notifications that you referred to, Kellen, I think those are fantastic, and Android really should steal those. And the continuous client stuff is also really cool. I wish I could just have my Android phone in my pocket, be doing something on it, then just walk up to my desktop computer and have my desktop realize that I was in the middle of, texting something, or I was in the middle of editing this document, and just, have it pull right up on the screen. That'd be wonderful. And Google is in a great position to do that because they could just make something like a Chrome extension and have it work across platforms. Whereas these features are, Apple device exclusive for their entire existence. So, yeah, those are the major things that I really liked. Also, just a little Siri feature that is obviously borrowed from Android, but they took it one step further. I like that there's a hot word for Siri now that you can use when your iPhone is off, as long as it's connected to a wall charger, I think. You can just say, "Hey Siri," and it'll wake up the device and activate Siri. Google is apparently working on something similar, but it'd be great if they could bring that to all Android phones.
Yeah, I guess I missed that part too. I saw there was a hot word for Siri, but I didn't realize you had to have your phone plugged into it. I guess that makes sense, since that feature being turned on could potentially eat battery life, so interesting.
No, it's just saying if your phone's off, like completely off, all it needs to be is plugged into the wall, and then that hot word will turn the phone on.
Oh, I thought you just meant screen off.
No, I
You
think
meant
it's
phone
just
all
when
the way.
it's plugged in, because I had the
just-
data on my phone for a bit, and it wasn't working with it not plugged in.
Oh, okay, never mind. I read that wrong as well.
But that's not a feature that's available on all Android phones. Only ones with a dedicated listening chip and a manufacturer that decides, or software maker that decides to take advantage of it. And I think there are some licensing issues or something, because we haven't seen a lot of phone makers, use the dedicated listening chip in the Snapdragon, for example. So.
Right. It's really still just Motorola, isn't it? So no one else has done it, have they? Yeah.
I think OnePlus One did it. But, I mean, OnePlus did it with the One.
Oh God. That
Maybe no one has a One yet, so we don't know, right?
Yikes. All right, Ron, let's hear it. What did you think of iOS 8?
I think it looks great. I'm really excited to play with it once it's out of Beta 1. Beta 1 was a little janky, but
did you flash a beta?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was tweeting the other day. I was trying to get my phone back onto 7. So, yeah, but I got it. It's back. It's very exciting. So, yeah, I mean, Kylie kind of mentioned that we thought HealthKit was going to be a big deal, which we thought was going to be HealthBook. And in the original leak by Mark Gurman from 9to5Mac, that is what he had leaked, but looks like pretty much everything he got about it was wrong. It doesn't look anything like Passbook, and it wasn't a big feature. That was one of the only things that leaked about iOS 8, and it looks like he got a lot of it. Either he got it wrong or they changed it, which he leaked very, very early, so it's possible that they just changed a bunch of stuff.
Or Apple is just trolling that guy now because he's been right for a couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been. I mean, yeah, and he's young too. I think he's 21. 21. He's young, but he's gotten a lot of leaks. So
yeah.
he's done, so that's his first big thing that I've seen him get wrong. So, but that was kind of the surprising thing, I think, from WWDC, was just how much stuff, like, there were no leaks about, like, the continuity, about about third-party keyboards, about sharing between apps, iCloud Drive, like, none of that leaked at all. Everybody went in blind, or all the stuff about OS X that we haven't discussed at all either. There's just they had a ton of stuff out. So I think a lot of it looks great. We'll see how it actually turns out once they actually release it. But the notification stuff looks fantastic. They cleaned up Notification Center, which has been garbage for a long time. So that looks to be improved. Having widgets in Notification Center, I guess that's cool. We'll see how that actually turns out.
You're just gonna have this infinitely long list of Notification Center widgets.
Like on the Mac, I think it makes a ton of sense because you've got like space to use it. But on the phone, like, I don't know. We'll see.
Whoever's making that better do it right. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a different space, so it'll be. And on the iPad, I'm sure it'll be more useful too. So on the phone, I don't know. So, but it's cool that they're adding the functionality to do that. They had kind of it's sort of like introduced it with iOS 6 in a way, because they had the widgets in the lock screen for where they're in stocks, and everybody kind of expected them to expand on that, and they never did, and then they kind of got rid of it in 7, and now they've brought it back. So, so that's interesting. You know, the inter-app communication is great, because it actually opens up iOS developers to do all sorts of things that they couldn't do before. So before, the way that you would connect with apps was through URLs, and so yeah, that's how it would work. So they're like hidden URLs to shoot between apps. So like, so there's like they introduced share sheets, which is something else, but that's how apps would talk to each other before, and it worked, but it was obviously severely limited, and you couldn't because every app was sandboxed, so that one app could not access another app's data. That created a lot of barriers for that. It also made iOS extremely secure. Which is why there isn't any malware on iOS, which is great, but it limited it. So now they're kind of opening that up a little bit more, and it's still siloed in those apps, but now they're just kind of able to talk to each other's silos, which is cool. So I think the big thing for me is just like seeing I think the Mac is a lot more, it's a lot more, what's the word? I don't know, I'm more excited about getting a Mac than I was before, because there's a lot more uses and a lot more continuity between the two devices if you have an iPhone or an iPad.
Continuity. That was the word of the day.
Yeah. So, and a lot of that stuff is like, honestly, like that's, like a lot of that stuff is stuff that HP and really Palm was trying to show off with the touchpad and the Pre 3, where you'd be able to kind of pick up with whatever you left off on. That was years ago now, but with the demo, where they would show off, you know, you've got your Pre 3 or your Veer, and you're doing stuff, and then you'd be able to touch your touchpad, and it would shoot over all the apps that you had open in the exact same spots. I don't think that ever actually came out, because the Pre 3 never came out. But although you can find it on eBay for like $600, if you're interested. But like that kind of fun, that's what they were looking at way back in 2010, 11, and so it's cool to see somebody finally do that. That's something that I've been clamoring for a while. I've written about that a bunch of times in opinion pieces throughout the last couple of years. But that's pretty neat, and there's actually developers reporting that with the continuity, where you've got the little icon in the bottom left-hand side of your lock screen to pick up where you left off on another device, that actually goes out beyond that. So it's actually location aware too. So if you walk into a Starbucks, the Starbucks app shows up in the bottom left, which I wrote about last year with my Smartwatch piece about some things about using location and how people should use location. That right there is freaking awesome. Like not having to go open my slide to unlock, type in my code, go to folder, get the Starbucks app. I can just swipe up and there it is. That's killer. That's absolutely killer, and leveraging the information that they've already got in a great way that's been obvious, I think, but nobody's done it yet. So I think the big thing is we've seen Apple come out swinging in a way and coming out with a lot of confidence, because a lot of the stuff they're coming out with is stuff that people have been asking for years, developers and users. And I think they're really caught up with Android with a lot of the things that people that were Android users said, like, oh, I can never go to iOS because of this, 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 and this. Like, they've checked a lot of those boxes with what they're coming out with iOS 8. There's still a handful of things that you can do in Android that you can't do in iOS, but those things are, I mean, that number of things is shrinking dramatically. So I'm excited to see, to see what devices they have alongside with this and to see all that stuff rolls out. But they announced so many things. It was a packed keynote. It
was a couple-hour keynote, at least 2, I think.
It was 2 hours, and there's plenty of things like HealthKit is a good example where they talked about it for a few minutes and moved on, and there's a ton of things that they didn't mention that we've since found out about because of developers, and I'm sure we'll continue to see more. Like that location-aware thing, I consider that a giant feature. That's a big thing. So to see that really roll out beyond, it's been in Passbook, but to see that roll out beyond that is pretty neat.
I'm becoming more convinced that Apple is waiting to detail a lot of features until they have new hardware to announce alongside them. I have a feeling that the new hardware is going to take advantage of the features in some way that they can't reveal yet. Or, I don't know, they just had too much to pack into a 2-hour keynote. Regardless, there are a lot of little things that are really awesome about when iOS 8, like especially the feature you just mentioned, Ron. I think even if you don't have an app installed, a little icon will still appear on the lock screen, and then you can go and install that app if you're in a location that has a relevant app. But most importantly, I have a question for you, Ron. Does the weather icon update in iOS 8?
No, it does not.
Damn
but they did switch from using Yahoo Weather to the Weather Channel, which is a gigantic improvement.
Really?
Interesting.
Yep. So which is kind of interesting considering all the rumors that we had heard that that Marissa Mayer was talking to Apple about trying to get Yahoo to be the main search engine to get, and they've done a lot of stuff Apple has to get around Google stuff, right? So all the Spotlight stuff that they're doing, both on the phone and on the iPad and on OS 10, it's circumventing Google in a lot of ways. So you can still search on Google if you hit Command Space or hit the Spotlight icon or pull down from one of your home screens to access Spotlight. You can still do a Google search there, but it automatically comes up with Wikipedia entries and a bunch of other sites. So they're doing a lot of stuff to kind of get around Google, which is, I think, interesting to see them continue that. I wasn't sure if they would continue to do that. And search is a big one, right? Like that's Google has not. They've refused to release numbers for how much money they're making on mobile, but undoubtedly they're making a lot of money from iPhones doing Google searches and all sorts of other things. So that's and I think that's the key difference here is that when Apple unveils a feature like continuity, where hey, if you're doing something on your phone, you can pick right back up with it on your computer or on your tablet. That is a gigantic selling point that Google can do for its phones and tablets, but can't do in a lot of other, like maybe they can do it for Chromebooks, but that's great for the 3 people that have those. But like you'd have to build that out so that it's supported in Eric's got one, which is good for Eric. But like you have to build that out support for in Windows and in OS 10. And I don't you could do it, but a lot of that is about being aware of where you're at, what devices you're using, and everything else like that. I'm not sure that they'll be able to get that kind of control.
Yeah, I mean, like Kyle mentioned earlier, it would have to be through an extension or something in Chrome. And
like Hangouts or something,
Or make Hangouts a native app. Please, for the love of God, please make it a native application.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Then you might be able to do something like that. But even then, like there's so many things about Hangouts that are great, but that need to be fixed, like separate conversations for SMS and via Hangouts, whatever we want to call that, like integrating those together, making Hangouts the default application, just getting rid of the Messages app altogether. Please delete that from AOSP. Like there's a lot of things that Google could be doing, and maybe they'll do that, at I/O. Who knows? Like that'd be great, and it'd be great to see them have that kind of continuity. But that's where it gets kind of it's difficult because they don't have now they've got lots of options on iOS too, so it's possible they'll be able to do that kind of thing, which would be an amazing selling point for them to say, hey, you can do this across any device except for Windows Phone because screw Microsoft. But but it's hard to do. It's really, really difficult. It's especially doing the location aware stuff and figuring out which device you're using. That's what's insanely difficult, especially if you're using 2 devices at the same time. So building all that stuff together so that it's able to talk to each other helps tremendously. So it'd be cool to see them do that.
Yeah, I mean, Apple has a pretty big advantage because they have computers with an operating system and now tablets and phones, right, and all that, and it can all work together. And yeah, it would be tough for Google to do it unless they built in extensions or whatever. But I mean, I would say that was the thing I took away from it that impressed me the most was the fact that everything, and Apple's been slowly working towards this, but everything they have works together if you want it to work together, from messaging to picking up an email to picking up something else and the automatic hotspot, like all this stuff. So like if you just own Apple products, like everything you have just works constantly together, and it's now working more and more and more and more together and easier. So yeah, I would say that this was one of the first times I've watched a WWDC where I was actually like, good job, Apple. You did some pretty cool stuff. In the last couple of years, it's kind of been like, oh, Android features we've had for, since 2008 or 2010. I mean, something like that. This was actually, good job. Yeah, I mean, if you're a big iOS user, you should be really excited about all this stuff. And if you own a MacBook or, an iMac or something, you should be pretty excited. So.
Yeah. And I think it's also interesting. Go ahead, Kyle.
Oh, I was just going to say, the presentation itself was fantastic. I thought I laughed out loud at some of the stuff Craig Federighi said. Sorry, I have trouble pronouncing his name. Despite the swipes at Android, it was wonderfully rehearsed and fantastically entertaining. So have to give them props there.
Yeah, and not only that, they took took shots at Android, which they always do, but they also took shots at themselves, and they've been doing that for the last couple of years, which I think is like them being able to look at themselves and laugh is like, to be self-aware is pretty, like, it's nice to see a company doing that. It's nice to see Apple in particular doing that because they're so often perceived as being pretentious. Yeah, I mean, they across the board they did a fantastic job with the keynote. This is the best they've done by far. Craig Federighi has really grown into that compared to when he first showed up doing a keynote with Lion, where his hand shaking as he's trying to move the mouse and everything. Like, he has really, really grown into that. We can do without the hair jokes. I think at this point we can move on from those. But
yeah.
But what I was going to say earlier is I think the interesting thing, like seeing the parity that we're seeing between Android and iOS now. It's interesting to see the different takes between the two companies, where we've got Apple that wants everything to look very nice and not necessarily have all the features, versus Android, where you've got tons of features, but everything kind of looks like crap and runs kind of crappy, at least early on, right? And then they build on that, right? So now we're to the point where we've got feature parity and they're both running a lot more smoothly, right? Like early Android, like it was really janky, frame rates weren't good, everything else like that, versus on the iPhone, everything's nice and smooth, we couldn't do as much. Now we're kind of seeing them go neck and neck in a lot of things. Android's very smooth, and they've done a lot of great work to see that happen. So it's interesting to see, okay, where now that they're kind of even in a lot of those areas, where do they go from there to outdo the other?
Yeah, I saw a bunch of threads on like Reddit and stuff after the keynote saying like, Google, it's your move. You got to step up now because Apple finally did and all this stuff. So hopefully we get a bunch of stuff at I/O. Maybe Google has a bunch. Maybe we'll finally get a big Hangouts update that makes it not crappy anymore. And who knows? I don't know that we're getting Droid 5.0 or something crazy like that yet. But yeah, Google's definitely got to show off a whole bunch of new stuff. So we'll see. That's only a couple weeks away. So. All right, quickly, let's talk about this Samsung Tizen phone, which is called what's it called? The Samsung Z? Is that what it's called? The Samsung Z? I should have that. So Samsung announced their first Tizen smartphone, and it is going to Russia. And that's pretty much it. It might be going other places after that. Otherwise, that's where it's going. And since there are zero apps or zero app ecosystem or no developers or anything, Samsung's trying to get developers to develop for it by opening some sort of promotional deal. I would imagine they're probably just going to give them a bigger cut of whatever they sell in their app store or something like that. But yeah, it's got a 4.8-inch HD Super AMOLED display, which is 720p. It's got a quad-core processor, 8-megapixel camera, and the design is kind of different. It actually looks like an LG phone, I think. It looks like I can't remember. I can't think of what LG phone it is offhand. Like it's one of the Spectrum devices, maybe. So it looks a little bit different than the Galaxy phones. I don't really care that they announced this. A lot of people were saying, here comes the beginning of the end. Now Samsung, this is their first step towards leaving Android, and this is the moment we've all been waiting for. The rumors are finally true. I don't know. Do you guys? Did you get scared or nervous for Android or for Samsung's other products at any point during after the announcement of this Tizen phone?
Yes, it's over.
It's over.
I think we've all talked about on past shows how we're not really under the impression that Samsung's actually going to leave, or
in position to, yeah.
Yeah, it would be suicidal for them, and if it did, I think it would be good for Android because it would leave a huge power gap. Like you could exploit that so easily in marketing. If HTC or LG or somebody, oh my God, LG would have a field day if Samsung was like, yeah, we're moving out of Android. LG would have commercials ready, like to go on air in an hour, just blasting Samsung and if you need to switch, hey, look at our phones. I don't think it would be in Samsung's best interest to do this. So,
what if they did it really slowly? What if this is the most popular phone ever in the history of Russia, and they build an app store, and then they take over like India or something, and Tizen becomes really popular in India, and then they move to like Germany, and then Norway, and then eventually they're like, let's do it, let's just pull the plug, and it's like 5 years from now. Is that happening?
I could see it spreading to Ukraine maybe, but that's about it.
Yikes.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was terrible.
Sorry.
No, it's my understanding that it's very easy to port between Android and Tizen. Is that correct?
I do not know,
Does anyone
actually.
know?
I don't
Okay.
know at all. I would imagine it probably is, but I haven't looked into it at all. So I don't know.
Okay.
Ron, I think we know how you feel about Tizen, right?
Yeah, it's the end of Android. You're ready.
That's right. All right, so moving out of there. Android 4.3 is now officially official. It was, well, I think T-Mobile first outed it on Monday, I believe. In their support forums, they announced that the Nexus 5 and Nexus 4 and Nexus 7 2013 were all getting 4.3 starting Monday. And then by the afternoon, Google finally posted the factory images, so everyone realized it was real. Then it went to AOSP, and then it started rolling out. And then Motorola announced it for the T-Mobile variant, which is really the unlocked variant of the Moto X, and then the Moto G, and then the Moto E. And then all the Google Play devices started getting it. And yeah, so it's everywhere. Droid devices will be getting it soon, the 2013 Droid devices. It's not a big update. You will get a reskinned dialer, which is much lighter in color. It's now gray and white and colorful contacts instead of all black, and a slightly tweaked People app. And the rest is all behind-the-scenes bug fixes and things like that. So that's pretty much all there is to say. 4.4.3. Let's see. So yesterday, the Android developers team was Roman Nurik, I believe that's how you say his name, and another guy who I don't know that work for the Android design team, I believe. They posted up a thing about making an app for Android Wear, and they showed pictures, both of them wearing. One was wearing the LG G Watch, one was wearing the Moto 360. It was a prototype. They said prototype. It looked huge. Did you guys see that photo, and did you get scared? Like, did it scare you a little bit from the Moto 360, or still like, I don't care, I just want that thing? Eric?
Well, I have massive wrists and like really large hands, so it did not terrify me in the slightest, because it'll probably look just right at home on my freakishly large wrists. But I know for some people, like it looked a little bit bulky, but I highly doubt that that was 100% finished. What we'll be seeing going to market. But I mean, it was a little.
It's got to be close though, right? They're not going to last minute change the display size or something. I mean, that's got to be pretty close, I would think.
And then you got to take into account the guy wearing it too. Like Ray 2 just pointed out in chat that his wrist might be smaller than normal person's, and it just
got tiny little programmer wrists or something.
Yeah, I mean, the camera can do a lot when you don't put perspective behind it.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it didn't scare me. While I don't necessarily like massive watches, it still looks like the best smartwatch.
I mean, I'm one of the people that wore the Moto Active around on their wrist as a watch for a while, so
so it's definitely not scary.
Can you get a bingo card for this game and have the Moto Active and Eric mentioning it on there? Because
he really does talk about the Moto Active a lot.
This is becoming a problem. No, guys, you can take it. The light.
I remember Eric and I were two of the only people on Earth that owned that thing. So, like when new updates had come out, him and I would talk about how awesome it was. Yeah, so I don't know. Do you guys have any other thoughts? It just looked big. Oh, there's also a G Watch system dump out there, which looked pretty bare bones in terms of. Definitely not the Samsung take on a smartwatch, that's for sure. There wasn't a whole bunch of app APKs and a bunch of junk. It's just Google Now cards, wallpapers.
Sweet boot animation. Amazing boot animation.
Yeah, really
awesome.
cool boot animation.
Those watches looked really cool, too.
Yeah, some cool watch faces. Although some are a little amateur and colorful for my taste, but some were okay. But assuming they let other people build watch faces, that could be fun. But yeah, just like I looked through the whole thing for like 2 hours, and it was really bare bones. I mean, we don't know how official or final it is, but Samsung just overloaded everything into their smartwatches. This was not that at all. This was really light on anything, so kind of cool.
No sign of the Vienna Boys Choir. That's
no. Yes, that is good. So yeah. So I would say Google I/O's just got to have. Well, I think the schedule shows that there's a bunch of Android Wear stuff coming. I would guess we're getting one of these watches right before or at I/O. I think that like they might officially announce it on stage or something. It just seems like one of these is ready to go. I thought maybe the Moto 360 would come just before, but it could be LG's G Watch. I think the Twitter accounts, can't remember what it's called. I apologize. Maybe UpLeaks, maybe that leaked the dump. I think it said that this is supposed to be the reference device for Android Wear, the LG G Watch. So that would be a perfect I/O sort of unveiling device. So yeah. All right, Kyle, you wrote this up earlier. HTC's revenues for May, not pretty. Even though the 1.8 was released right at the end of April, I believe, so it had a full month. And yeah, I mean, I think they said they're hoping to have a good quarter still, but May definitely wasn't looking awesome, right? What else was in that?
Yeah, so you're right about their projections. They're remaining the same despite the decline in revenue month over month and year over year. 27% decline year over year, which is not good at all. But I don't know. Yeah, they were able to buoy the last quarter's revenue by selling their stake in Beats. They probably should have held on to it in retrospect, but
yeah, now think about that.
Right, they're still hoping that mid-range and low-end devices will kind of save them, as well as, I guess, the HTC One 8 Prime, or M8 Prime, rather, and potentially a new Nexus tablet, but I haven't read anything about that alleged Nexus tablet in a while, so who knows if that's actually real or not. But yeah, basically the takeaway is things look pretty bad, but HTC is confident that they'll get better. So.
The crazy thing is that there must be assuming that it's going to get better because of all the new mid-range devices they're introducing. Because the one, I mean, they had a month with the One M8, and that should be, you know, your biggest. You would think one of your biggest months, because everyone should be buying your brand new phone that was newly introduced, and apparently it didn't help that much. So it's kind of scary for them. But not that anything is new on that front. They've been doing that for a while. So.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. So. All right, let's Motorola randomly out of nowhere, I believe this was yesterday, announced the Moto Stream, which is a $50 Bluetooth streaming device that hooks up to speakers or stereo. So you can connect your devices to it and then stream your music to it. And your friends can also connect, and they can stream and heist. You can go into heist mode or something like that and take over and start playing their music on top or whatever. And it's this sort of... I don't even know how to describe the shape of it. It's kind of like a prism-y thing.
I was told it was it's an icosahedron? I think I'm saying that right. Icosahedron.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. And it has lights on it. And it looks, in pictures, incredibly cheap and cheesy, I'm not going to lie. But it's kind of like a Nexus Q, right? The Nexus Q that Eric also likes to talk a lot about. Eric, you have to be super excited for this thing. You wanted the Nexus Q to come back so bad, and now you have like Motorola's cheap version.
Hey, I don't care if it looks cheap. If it works how they say it does,
yes, then
I am all down for it. 300 feet, like, well, $50. That's not a bad price point for them. To have wireless streaming through your house where you don't have wireless speakers, that's a pretty good price point for them to come in. So I always thought that Google kind of messed up with the Q. Like, they had a lot there that they just kind of...
The $300 Nexus Q. We had to look that up. We couldn't remember how expensive it really was.
We were like, how much was that?
Yeah.
So I think $50 is a much better price point to come in at, but I still think that there's a place for this device. Like, I think I would personally get one. You know, well, I'm not in college anymore, but college student, you know, go to a house party and you can take this in your pocket and hook it up to your friends' you know, speakers, and then put on some music and then get into a fight when somebody heists your Going right
mode,
where they drop the beat, and then it goes.
They drop the beat.
Yeah.
So is this thing basically, Kyle? I think you mentioned this to me the other day. Is this thing basically just like a Chromecast, right? Because they show, like, I'm looking at the image we used in our post, and they have Google Music up, so they're not using a Moto Stream app. So is it going to be something you just cast to? Like, is it going to show up in the cast button, and you can just cast music to it? I'm guessing. Well, no, Heist sounds like there's a special app or mode. So.
Did we lose Ron just now?
Yeah, we might have. He'll probably be back.
Okay. Yeah. So, hello again. It uses Bluetooth, actually, which is not the greatest for music streaming because it has a lot of compression.
It's gotten a lot better, though, hasn't it? Beats said it was okay.
Yeah, and they're the authority on
exactly
quality streaming, right?
Great sound, yeah.
Of course, only the best. No, I mean, it's okay. It's serviceable. But I just think it's way too much for what it is. I just pulled up on Amazon a $30 Bluetooth speaker adapter that also has NFC, and yeah, I mean, almost all of the features of this. I mean, it's not the weird shape, and it doesn't have LEDs, so there's that.
Yeah, it doesn't have 5 LEDs, so you can't know when your those are all hooked up to it at the same time.
We don't even know what the LEDs do, if they just pulse randomly. I don't know. It's just so bizarre and plasticky and nasty looking. But
I ordered a couple of them, so they're coming Friday, so we'll know shortly.
Yeah, it's just a really odd device that I'm not sure why Motorola felt the need to develop it. Maybe to pay homage to the Nexus Q in some strange way.
In case this means anything, the shipment is coming from Texas, so maybe they took down all of the lines of the Moto X and are now making the Moto Stream, or something like that.
It'll be their last hurrah.
That was their plan the whole time, actually.
That was the plan the whole time. We'll just have this big old factory, and we'll just make these weird hexagonal.
They melted down all the backs for the Moto E, and they're using that.
So those aren't really LEDs; those are just melted down backs that they painted on, that they infused into the shape.
Turns out.
Interesting. So yeah, $50 for this thing, and it's available now on Motorola.com, and eventually Radio Shack, which is kind of a weird partner.
Yeah,
well, who else are you going to partner with? I mean, what do you want to do?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we'll have two. We have two coming. So I'll try one out, and we'll probably give one away or something. If anybody wants one.
I mean, I think it's pretty awesome that we see companies that are slowly dying continue to partner with Radio Shack that is also slowly dying.
Yeah, but hasn't Radio Shack been slowly dying for a decade? I swear they've rebranded.
HTC is trying really hard to beat their record. Okay.
Does that mean HTC? Did you just out HTC's exclusive deal with Radio Shack to sell all phones going forward?
Was I not supposed to mention that?
No, you weren't.
I don't know.
Motorola and HTC exclusive partnership with Radio Shack.
Harman Kardon, right?
Yeah, Harman Kardon editions, of course.
Just imagine the Moto Shack.
Oh God.
I get it.
The Moto Shack. Okay, so that's available. But speaking of this Texas plant, the Motorola, this happened last week. I realize we haven't talked about this. We haven't, right? This was right after the show. Motorola announced that they're closing their Texas plant. So U.S. assembled, not U.S. made, U.S. assembled Moto X's are going to be a thing of the past. They did tell us, though, that Moto Maker will live on. We don't know exactly how that will work. But it will live on, so you'll be able to customize devices going forward once the Texas plant closes. Yeah, I think that sucks. I don't think this is a shock to anyone that they're closing this thing. We had people telling us for the last 6 months, stuff that we weren't exactly able to write, but that they were shutting down lines and laying off workers left and right. So this is definitely not that big of a shock. But it's closing, and yeah, too bad for America.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what this is about. America lost again.
America lost once again. Motorola, I don't know that they've announced ever how many Moto X's they've sold, but I don't think it. I think we understand that it wasn't many. Well, they probably never announced it because Google still owns them, and they don't ever talk about anything important like that.
No, they're gonna release numbers any day now.
Yeah. So I think it was pretty obvious once the price started dropping almost immediately for the Moto X that they weren't selling many, and clearly not enough to keep the Texas plant alive. Which is kind of too bad. You could customize a phone and get it in 4 days, and if they have to move that elsewhere outside of the U.S., you're probably not going to get a phone in 4 days. So. Yeah, too bad. Unless maybe the Moto X Plus One or whatever this new one's called, maybe they'll just keep pumping that thing out for the rest of the year until they shut it down. Who knows?
I mean, the point is that we tried to tell you guys to buy the Moto X, right? I write this big article, go buy the Moto X, and nobody loves America enough to go buy it. Like, what are you guys doing? Eric showed up. Kyle got an LG G2, like a monster.
Still rocking it.
Korea.
Yeah, I think I even have one.
America.
Yeah,
right there.
Americans buy Motorola phones, right there.
Right there.
My roommate likes to make
traitor.
Motorola got bought by Lenovo, so he likes to say that I have a Chinese phone, but this says designed and assembled in the USA.
Yeah, mine says that too. Look at that.
Mine does not say that.
Yours really doesn't?
Oh no, there it is.
Oh, yeah, way down at the bottom, the finest print.
And yeah, it's like etched into the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not getting that off of there. Don't even try.
Not
That's the last American phone.
A real American would get that off there.
So kind of sad. It was kind of a cool idea that Motorola was actually assembling phones in the U.S., but just didn't work.
But much like the Moto Q, it did not work.
that Moto stream thing. I hope I don't just laugh when I play with it. I hope somehow I go, "This is awesome," and we can tell.
I mean, it should have been Rubik's Cube, right? Like we can all agree about that, right?
Yeah. It's like a faux Rubik's Cube Bluetooth dongle.
Yeah. And I see that, and I think it's a weird polygonal Rubik's Cube, or Polygon the Pokemon. One of the two, though.
I just want to see how the lights work, because in those pictures they look like the cheesiest thing I've ever seen, ever. I mean, this thing,
looks like
come
something
on.
you'd buy at the airport.
This looks like the product that should have already been listed on Amazon that Kyle just tried to Google. I mean, this thing... All right.
Yeah.
All right, so last...
Other...
What's that, Kyle?
No, I was just gonna reiterate that there are other adapters that do the same thing for a cheaper price. So
that's what I'm saying. This is one of those. You know how every time Google announces a case for like the Nexus 5, and we go, "Don't buy the $45 TPU case. You can get 18 different versions on Amazon for $4." That's probably what we're gonna say with the Nexus Q Moto Stream. Same deal. Yeah. All right, so final topic before we jump into apps and games. We can do this quickly. Microsoft is apparently making a smartwatch, and it will work with everyone, Android and iOS, and because Tim's not here, Windows Mobile.
Windows
I don't
Phone.
know. Yes, I mean Windows Phone, but Tim usually says Windows Mobile, I think, doesn't he?
What does he?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think so.
every time, and I correct him every time.
Yeah, every time. I don't. It's apparently going to be It's apparently going to be filled with sensors, and there's people that were working on the Kinect or something that are making this thing, and who knows if it'll be awesome.
Oh, you mean the Kinect that recently just got made a non-essential part of the Xbox One?
Yes, that would be that Kinect. That's right. They pulled. You can now buy it, or soon can buy it without Kinect, right? Or something like that. Yeah. So those people that were fired because that was apparently so much of a failure now are making a smartwatch for Microsoft. I guess I'm just smartwatched out at this point. I want Android Wear to see what it looks like, and then if it sucks, I think I'm officially just giving up forever on a smartwatch. If the Moto 360 is not the greatest thing on earth that technology has ever come up with, or Motorola or somebody, I don't care anymore. We'll never write about another smartwatch. I don't know.
Until the Nike Fuel Band returns triumphantly.
If Microsoft makes a smartwatch that's designed like a Lumia, are you guys going to buy it?
So I can take pictures, like really sweet pictures.
Yeah, it'll have this really giant...
50 megapixel camera.
They'll put a hockey puck on it, and you can zoom after the fact. 43 megapixel watch pictures.
I'm buying that.
Okay.
Well, so is anybody here using a smartwatch right now?
No.
Does the Fitbit count?
No.
No.
Okay, then no.
I have almost all of them, and I have no use for them. They just drive me insane.
Do you wear a watch?
I used to a lot, and then I tried to wear smartwatches, and then I just was like, this sucks.
And now I don't wear a watch ever again.
Yeah, no,
I've given up on watches entirely.
Yeah.
Thanks to Microsoft.
Yeah, I'm blaming everyone. Like, you guys are partially probably at fault for some of this. The last thing I wore was LG's, I don't even know where it is.
The G Watch?
No, the Lifeband Touch thing, their fitness band that just came out like without any sort of announcement really the other day. I wore that for about a week and a half and worked out and said this thing sucks too. I don't even want to write it up because it sucks.
Fitbit.
Yeah, I can't even write up the Fitbit or wear one because you can't buy them anymore because
Yeah, it's
they
going back on sale.
make my arm bubbly and gross. Yeah, smartwatch out. So Moto 360 is the final shot for me, and I give up.
I think I give up.
That you guys can talk about smartwatches. You stopped using the Pebble? Mm-hmm. You weren't using the Pebble anyway. You were using it as a watch only.
No. I had it all hooked up.
Really?
Yeah. After my trip to New York, I left it on, so I had it. And they added the Do Not Disturb mode, which is killer. So after 5 o'clock, it would.
But you've already given up on it.
Yeah, well, I bought this thing, and I like this a lot better. So.
Oh, you bought like a real classy watch
like
instead.
A real man watch.
Yeah.
With no notifications.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, it looks a lot better. I can tell you that right now.
You feel a lot better about yourself now.
Like I feel like between my iPhone making me a better person and this watch, like.
Don't forget though, you need to put that Moto X away because your life sucks with it, and you need improvement in life. Yes.
This and this. And this are all just
making your life terrible.
Yeah, it's really weighing me down.
Those were all accidents. You made 3 accidents. Come on.
I made 3 accidents.
Mistake, Ron.
This Moto X is my baby, and I made it on accident.
I mean, there's probably like malware crawling around on your desk right now because of those.
So much. Like there's this Talon app. I don't even know where that came from. Firefox, is that a real thing?
99.9% Ron. Malware.
I mean, it's just ISIS wallet. Is that real? What do I do about that?
No.
What was the quote? It was so good. God, the malware quote was gold. I have to look that up.
Somebody had it earlier.
It's all on Android. It's a fact.
Yeah, somebody had it in the chat earlier, and I'm forgetting it. Yes.
A hell stew.
Yes.
Yeah. Which was from somebody from ZDNet. That wasn't a template.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But he put it up on one of their awesome
with a really great graphic, yeah. The hell stew like lit on fire for a second.
Hell stew, yeah.
Yeah, can't do that on Google Slides, can you? Nope.
I love Tim Cook's presentations. They're so great. No one else does that anymore, by the way. Like, Vic and Docher, who's not with Google anymore, used to just kind of do like a hee little jab. Like, he even gave up on it. But Apple, every time now, they take a break out of whatever they're doing just to go, check out this slide. We hate our competition, and you should too. It's just hilarious.
Yeah.
You know what the best part of this keynote was? No Phil Schiller.
I don't know why you hate Phil so much.
God, I cannot stand that guy. All right, we're kind of going off the rails now.
No, this is on the rails. This is what the show is about. Which Apple executive do you hate the most? Kellen hates Phil Schiller.
Phil Schiller.
Who hates Droid?
Do you have a dartboard with all their faces on them?
No, just his.
Just Schiller.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Schiller.
Just my boy.
Can't innovate my ass, Kellen. Can't innovate my ass.
Yeah. Oh.
Hey, I actually have an app that I want to talk about this week.
Oh, you do? Does that mean we're getting to apps and games, Eric? Is that what we're doing?
That's called the segue.
Ron and I are talking about Phil Schiller.
We're talking about, you can have your own little conversation. We're going to talk about Phil Schiller right now.
All right, fine. We can move on to apps and games. It is 7:06. All right, Eric, you don't get to go first, though. So Nova Launcher got an update out of beta. First big update in a long time, if you weren't using the beta, and introduced all sorts of stuff. And I'm not going to lie, I forgot what all the stuff was, but it also included OK Google. So on any home screen, if you have it enabled, you could say OK Google, and it'll pop up a search. And you don't have to have a search box. Well, yeah, Eric can do this all the time with his little Moto.
No, I mean, you just saying that activated my Moto X. I just thought
that shouldn't happen. It's supposed to be like customized to your voice.
Come on, Moto X. What do you?
All right, I'm trying again. Okay, Google now.
Yep.
I heard it go off. It's not supposed to work.
I mean, you basically have the same voice.
Yeah, we must have a really similar voice. That's interesting that actually worked. All right.
Or it turns out Eric's actually attuned his Moto X to your voice. It's a long-term troll.
He's been using it and recording me during shows. Okay, Google now. Didn't work that time, did it?
Oh, yeah, because I put it underneath my chair.
Oh, I was just going to keep doing that the rest of the show. All right, so Nova Launcher got that. And you don't have to have a Google search box anywhere on any of your home screens. You can just say, OK, Google, and it'll pop it up. It's actually kind of better than like the Google Now launcher and all that stuff, which is interesting. Let's see. Moto Assist got an update today with home mode. So when you're at home, hope I'm not saying that fast. When you're at home, it'll read out loud or say out loud all of your calls and texts, I think, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And Kyle, what else did it get? Some sort of like Google Now-ish thing. It's supposed to learn from you now. That was in this update, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's just what you said, actually. It'll just collect data, and Motorola will apparently use it for future features or something. And it has better drive detection now, too.
Okay.
Like, it's supposed to be more accurate, detect when you're actually driving and not, so.
Oh, right. So, yeah, Moto Assist. I like it that Motorola keeps updating all these apps.
Just hang out. Motorola's going to collect your data, which means Lenovo's collecting it, a Chinese company.
China is collecting your data.
They're going to have all your data, and America loses again because you're using a Motorola phone, guys. How many times do I have to tell you?
Motorola went from Texas to China. It's kind of sad.
It's quite the move.
It's a pretty big move.
But they've got Ashton Kutcher, so I mean, win-win.
Wait, is he with Lenovo? Is he designing phones for Lenovo?
He is the new Steve Jobs of China.
Oh, I forgot about that. It makes it even
How could
worse.
It's the best. What are you talking about? We're going to get some sweet phones now. Moto X Plus 1, garbage. Moto X Plus 2, that's where it's at.
We're all going to get punked.
Designed by Kutcher.
The Moto Punk. That's happening. Moto Kelso. It's going to be Moto Wisconsin. It's going to be amazing.
You totally just ruined my night, Ron. Ruined everything.
It's so good.
All right, talk about Instagram, Ron. What happened with Instagram today?
They had an update yesterday.
Oh, yesterday.
Unless you're on iOS, then you didn't get the update yesterday.
Oh, really? Android got something first?
Yeah.
No.
Hey, if you want system updates, get iOS. If you want app updates, you go to Android. That's how it works. So
if you want things 2 years ahead of time in terms of apps, get on iOS. If you want updates first, yeah.
Yeah. So
unless you're running like Froyo or because 99% of Apple's devices are up to date, so you probably can't run half of them on Android. Okay, I'll stop. What happened
Android
with Instagram?
sucks is really what we're trying to say.
Yeah, your life sucks.
And your life sucks. So Instagram came out with a new update. So the big thing is that they have added new editing options. So when you apply a filter, you can tap on it again, and you can adjust how strong the filter is. Yes, I live in Cupertino. Definitely ask me where I live, so I'm going to tell you. Let me get the address. Sorry, from the chat. So basically, you can tap on a filter, and you can adjust the strength of it, and then you can also go in further editing options. So let me take a picture on my Moto X real quick. So you can adjust things like sharpness, you can adjust brightness, you can straighten it, contrast, warmth, saturation, highlights, shadows, vignette, tilt shift. So basically everything that you can do in Snapseed or in the ScoCam, but the interface doesn't suck.
Every other photo manager.
Yeah, like I still really like Snapseed. I use that a lot. But having this stuff built into Instagram is pretty awesome. So I don't know if I'm going to use Snapseed as much. I hate ViscoCam and its user interface. But it's cool to see them. No, it's garbage. Mm-hmm. But it's cool to see them come out with this update. It's a pretty good update. So if you want to start editing your photos in Instagram, you can kind of do that a lot easier now. And so that's the big thing from the update, and there are bug fixes and the usual crap too. That's the big thing.
Yeah, I've yet to test it. I haven't had anything or done anything to take a picture of, so I haven't even tested that. Does it work well? I mean, is it actually like their editing stuff actually nice? You said it's on par with Snapseed almost?
Yeah, I like it a lot. So between Instagram's filters I think are hit and miss, but being able to go in and give like full editing controls, they work really well. So Sharpen isn't great, but I've never seen an app do Sharpen great.
Right.
Vignette works well. Snapseed is definitely going to give you more control. So if you want to do like full editing, stuff like that, still use Snapseed, I think. But if you're just doing light edits and adjusting, color tone and things like that, Instagram has it all built in, so I'd use that. So works well.
Nice. Eric, you got something you want to talk about today?
Yeah.
App or game?
So, Hitman Go launched for Android today,
Oh, yeah.
and I spent about 30 minutes playing it, and I'm probably going to have to say it's my favorite game that I've played on Android, like, since I've had an Android device. Like,
Ever?
Yeah, like, it is really fun. It's
Wow.
really smart, and it's really well done. If you've never played the Hitman series on consoles or PC or anything, you play Agent 47. He's like this legendary hitman. You go through, on the consoles, it's kind of like stealth, hiding, taking out people when you can, all that kind of espionage stuff. But on here, it took a really interesting route, and instead of trying to match the console graphics quality, because you can't really do that on a mobile device, they basically made it into a board game, and you have your little figurine of Agent 47, and you get to move him around from space to space, and you have to get from one point to the other. You have to, pick up a briefcase full of information, or, kill some guy, and, it doesn't sound really difficult at first, but the level layout gets progressively harder. They send you more difficult bosses. You get to put, you can throw rocks and stuff, and manipulate the guys into a certain part of the map so you can continue on without being noticed. Just very well done. And the art style, I'm a big fan of unique art styles and stuff that's done really well, like Monument Valley was, really fun for me. This was like an interactive game of Clue. Like, it was really fun to play, and I only played it for 30 minutes, and I only got through about 12 levels. And the last level I was playing, I don't think I finished it yet. It was actually stumping me. So, and they haven't even introduced guns into the game yet. So it's definitely worth the $4.99 on Google Play. I know that might be a little steep for most people, but it's very engaging, very well done. It's made by Square Enix Montreal. It's not like some, they didn't pass this license off to a smaller game company and let them have it. They sent one of their, bigger studios to make this, and they did a pretty good job.
Sweet.
So yeah.
All right, cool. Well, any other things you guys want to toss out there? Wrap up. Any other
I think
hot topics?
The chat's gonna mutiny against us if we don't Q&A.
Oh, Q&A! All right, we'll do like 2. I forgot about that. I'm sorry. We'll do like 2 questions. Better be good, people. Better be good. Like Kings or Rangers, that's not making the cut.
That's pretty weak.
Looking.
Let's see.
iPhoneLife.com.
It's my new site, guys.
You've never heard that one before.
If you visit iPhoneLife.com, you can find out where I live.
I told them where you live.
Could be. Hanging out with Dre and Tim Cook, guys.
Dre. Let's see. Sorry, there's actually a lot of questions this time.
Yeah,
My
people.
thoughts on the Moto stream. Yep, we talked about that. I want to take Kings or Rangers. I'm just kidding. Rithvik in our question and answer, huh?
Yeah, he said he put a bunch of them on there.
He did.
Yeah, he's got a couple of decent ones. Like if you recall, what would
here's
you
an
be doing
interesting
right
one
now?
we can kind of do quickly. Somebody asked, Luis asked, do you think that Lenovo's takeover is going to kill off any chance of Motorola gaining ground in the U.S.? They think it's going to be the exact opposite. They think that Lenovo has the distribution power to help probably do things a lot cheaper, so they can actually make money and hopefully have money to. Well, I guess that's hard to say because you would have thought Google would have put a whole bunch of money behind Motorola to help them marketing wise. Lenovo hopefully better be ready to do that, and they sound like they don't necessarily want to take away what Motorola's got going in the U.S., which isn't a lot, but.
Well, they just built their new Chicago headquarters, right?
They did, yep. They did.
So, I mean...
So, yeah, I don't think Lenovo is going to hurt their chance of gaining ground in the U.S. Well, Google didn't help them, but Google doesn't know how to market anything, so...
And Google doesn't have Ashton Kutcher guys, so I mean...
Okay. I mean, that's it right there.
That was the missing...
That was the missing piece.
That's what it was the whole time. Right.
Why didn't you think of that?
All right, here we go. Oh, sorry, it's another question from Luis. It has to do with T-Mobile Sprint merger. So Bloomberg reported tonight that they think it's I think Wall Street Journal jumped on afterwards too. That it's basically done. They've agreed to a price. So if that's the case, well, I think we talked about it a little bit in our post today. But who should run the company and all that stuff? Hopefully John Ledger stays on board because Dan Hesse is not
I think Sprint has played their way into running that company. Like they have just been going downhill for a long time.
It's been rough for Sprint for a while.
I don't think they have any leverage in the matter, but that's just me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of. I guess will they become Sprint? They will, right? They'll become Sprint. T-Mobile will become Sprint, and all of that work they've done potentially goes away, or do we think T-Mobile is going to negotiate to keep up all of the Un-carrier stuff they're doing? I don't really know, actually. I think John Ledger kind of made it known I think it was the CES press event when this stuff first started coming up, and he didn't deny any of it, obviously, but I think he said that the moves they've made will carry on no matter what. So,
it's just now you'll get an unfamily plan.
Unfamily. Mom, can Kevin Durant?
No, this isn't real. This whole Droid Live show's all in your head.
It's all a dream. Let's see. Do you guys see anything else that we really need to touch on here? Well, Michael asks, do you have any ideas for the next Un-carrier announcement? I think we talked about that briefly last week, and I don't think any of us had any ideas. So I don't know what they're going to do, unless it's going to be Sprint related, but that seems kind of odd that they would have created an announcement or an event or already around that. So I don't know what they can do to make anything better except their network. Make your network really awesome. That's not really Un-carrier-like, but... do that.
Free Moto stream with every upgrade.
What was that?
Free Moto stream with every upgrade. Wasn't the teaser like sound related or something?
It was, yeah. So we won't play.
Makes sense.
Sound.
It makes total sense.
Somebody in chat asked for our most wanted feature at I/O this year.
I would say, well, I want Hangouts to get better. I want Google Voice in there. I want to be able to make calls through Hangouts. I want it to actually work. I don't want there to be Google Voice and Hangouts. I just want it to be Hangouts. And I want group messaging to work properly. I want that cool map feature that Apple just introduced in theirs. I just want it to work and not suck. Because I've tried to get a lot of people to use it. And now that, most devices, now they're running KitKat, can, they have to choose a default text message app, then most of them are just going to kind of default to Hangouts because they don't know any better. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was a whole bunch of people complaining about when the Droid devices got, I think, a recent update. No, the Droid Razr HD, those ones from 2012, when they all got KitKat, all these people complained about how they had to use Hangouts and how terrible it was. It's kind of interesting because it just defaulted to it. But I think that's for me. What do you guys think for I/O? Anything in particular you want to see? Or Google Now?
I want to see Android Wear, obviously. I want to see more... Oh, I'm curious to see Google Plus, and if it gets wound down from the place that it has been centrally for the past couple of years, because it sounds like they're moving away from that. So I'll be curious to see if they start kind of backing down their Google Plus arms race that they've been going through the past couple of years.
Which, by the way, when the I/O schedule came out and we wrote up that there was nothing Google Plus related whatsoever on the schedule, not even a mention of Google Plus anywhere, and Google told us that the schedule's not done yet, I keep checking back and there's still no Google Plus anywhere.
Of course not.
I know we're still a few weeks away and that could change, but still nothing. Just pointing that out.
I think that's the most exciting thing, is seeing Google possibly unbundle those things. So like unbundle photos, unbundle, even like if you're using Google Drive, the Google Drive and Google Plus are sort of connected, but not really.
Right.
So basically, you can import from Drive into Plus, but not the opposite direction, which is insanely annoying. Keep Google Plus fine, because I guess people use it. That's exciting for Google, I guess. But just rip all those products apart. Like if they had like a standalone photo, like they bought Snapseed and they threw it in Google Plus, like that's really, really annoying to me. Like just make it its own app. And hey, maybe try selling something so you can make some money instead of like trying to sell everything based on ads. Like, sell it. Try that. See how that works. Like,
when was the last time Snapseed got an update?
Don't know. Couldn't tell you.
I mean,
still works though.
It does still work, but has it been like a year longer?
It's been about. They did update the iOS app for iOS 7.
Okay.
That's the only thing it did.
I'm looking real quick. I'll tell you right now. October. It's been a while.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Google Plus, yeah.
Yeah.
I know what Ron really wants to see. Eric Schmidt announced Android TV on stage.
In all the TVs.
Yes. And put it, and manually install it on all the TVs.
I want to hear more about Larry's Island. That's what I want to hear about. Where are we
Is
going?
Larry really on an
I hope
island?
we have a firm date on that.
Firm date on the island.
When can I jump on board?
When can I get my driverless car? Have completely separate text message and Hangouts conversations in one app.
Can we beta test that island? Can we sign up to do that?
Yeah. Can I have like a loom balloon just land in my house?
Will the day one keynote end with
Balloon
Sergey
balloons
Brin wearing Google Glass, jumping out of a helicopter in a Google car with a balloon powering it?
Checking his
internet for all. I think that's how it ends.
I mean, we need to combine all these things. Really, what it comes down to. I want to see a real Android. Like, I want to see them make a robot.
You want to see the return of Andy Rubin in robot form?
Yeah, like they put him off doing whatever he's doing, right? And Andy Rubin comes back. He's got a robot. That's the news for like Android 5.0. You don't carry a cell phone. You carry a robot.
A robot is carrying him like this.
Yeah, like you sit in your little robot.
Robot's hand.
Yeah, he just like does stuff for you. Just hangs out and like responds to your text messages a little passive aggressively. Gets Google Now notifications that you don't want. Hey, you were searching for this like 12 months ago. Do you want to look at this again? Huh? Hey, this is on TV right now. I know you don't have cable. You want to watch this? Huh?
Just like pokes you every once in a while.
Google, like that would be nice, like to see them like make Google Now useful in more ways. Right now, it's kind of just like it's like a trash heap of like content that you don't care about. I feel like, like every time I open it, it's like, hey, do you want to watch these TV shows that are on there? I'm like, no, I always swipe you away. Please stop. Hey, you want to keep searching this? No, I closed the tab. Like I'm done. Like,
are you
I'll
listening?
search for it later.
Are you watching TV right now? No. 2 days ago, the Braves were playing someone, and it's still telling me.
Yeah. So I searched for Giants tickets, San Francisco Giants tickets. Since I'm going to I/O, and now Google Now is telling me, like in my drop-down notifications, the score of the Giants games.
Yeah, and your drop down, because that's where you wanted it. You didn't want to know about who texted you. You want to know what the Giants score is.
Yeah.
And you can't just swipe that away. You actually have to tell them to stop sending you.
Please stop. Yeah, it's like and then it's like an unsubscribe email where they email you again telling you you've been unsubscribed.
Oh, I can't believe you just brought that up. That is my least favorite, biggest pet peeve. Drives me more insane than almost anything on earth. When I click on subscribe, and you send me another email
like,
that
hey,
says
now I'm gonna stop. Probably.
Yeah. thing. And that's speaking of someone just poking you. That's them just going, you really want to unsubscribe? Yeah.
It's the worst. But that'd be good. Like they need to update Google Now to make it like smart, so it actually like does helpful things. Like there's definitely some things that are helpful, but it's not as, I think when it first came out we were all pretty excited about it because it seemed to do some things that like it would try to anticipate behaviors, but it's actually really bad at doing that.
It's not great. I'll give you that. Like there's a bus stop near my house. Randomly, once every 4 months, it goes, "Here's the bus stop time." It's like, oh, thanks. You didn't get it in time, but
yeah, like
yeah,
and that's like, I don't know. Like I really wish they would. Like that's.
So that's what Ron wants to see is better.
That's what I want to see. I want to see
smarter
better
Google Now.
Yeah, and like use those, like they have information that can be helpful to like ascertain some of those things, but like use it better. Like use location better. Like there's a bus stop by you. Are you actually going to that bus stop?
Am I in a car or am I walking?
Yeah, like with on iOS and Notification Center today, like it figures out where you are, tells you how long it's going to get there, and like based on how many times you've been there. Like I wish Google Now would do that like more intelligently. Just like figure out, like it knows where I am. It's got GPS. Like everybody, like the NSA knows, Google knows. Like why doesn't Google Now know? Like what's going on?
Oh, they know. They're just not telling you.
Does anyone ever look? So every first of the month, you get that card that says, "This is how much you've walked and how many steps you've taken." Does anyone look at that thing and go, "This has no idea how much I've walked"?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't know.
The like mystery step counting walking card that it only shows up once and you can't ever pull it up again except on that day, and it's never has any idea where I've gone or how much I've walked. I love that card. It's my favorite. Every time I get it, I sit for like 5 minutes. I go, all right, how much did I? And it's never right. Work on that, Google.
Yeah, Google.
Before I.O. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, that's what I want to see is the actual step card work because I walk so much. Yeah. I walk to my kitchen and back a lot, yeah. All right, parting words, anything before we wrap for next week? What's going on next week? Nothing. Samsung event next week in NYC. So, yeah, that's about it. Maybe the G3 will come out someday in the U.S. Are we at summer yet? Is it summer, since that's all we're told?
Next
summer.
21st or 22nd.
All right, so we're not getting the G3 anytime soon. All right, cool.
The Verizon version passed for the FCC, didn't it? I think I saw that on DL.
It did.
So.
FCC. So, speaking of that, completely kind of unrelated yet still related, the LG G3 in the U.S. will not have wireless charging out of the box. The carriers are going to make you buy an accessory to enable it. So they're kind of pulling the Samsung there, which is complete garbage, by the way. So, yeah, hopefully you can find some really cheap wireless charging cases, which you probably won't be able to. So you'll spend $30 at least, probably $50. And it'll probably only be in that quick circle flippy case, which no one actually wants.
Yep. I wish I cared.
Little mini rant there. All right. I don't have anything else, so you guys ready to close up shop?
Let's do it.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. Episode 61 in the books. We're Droid Life. Peace.
Bye, Tim.
Bye, Kyle. Eric. Bye, Ron.
Bye, Ron.